My name is Sherman Coleman. I'm with the Frederick County Office of Economic Development, and we'd like to welcome you to Accessing Opportunities with State and Local Government. We're so glad to have you, and there's going to be a lot of important information we're going to put out today.
So just give them a minute, Sherman, just to let a couple more people roll in here before we get started. Just because it just takes a second for everybody to start filtering in. So
I see people still filing in.
Yeah, they're still filing in.
looking for seats.
There we go. Okay. Okay, Sherman, now the floor is yours. How's that?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sherman Coleman. I'm with the Frederick County Office of Economic Development. We want to welcome you to Accessing Opportunities with State and Local Government. We're so glad you're here, and we're looking forward to putting out a lot of important information to you. I would like to start off by thanking and recognizing our partners, starting with the Governor's Office of Small, Minority, and Women Business Affairs. We're also going to have the Frederick County Office of Procurement, the Freddie City Office of Procurement, the Frederick County Public Schools, and we're going to also send a thank you to Platinum PR, who is responsible for the technical assistance we're going to have today. The main thing we want to provide today are tools for small businesses to provide them with the information to do business with county, city, state, and the Frederick County Public Schools, so you could be in the pipeline. And the one thing I would like for you to take away today is to take advantage of this opportunity and to broaden your access to the streamline of success. I also like to thank the Planning Committee, Mary Ford Nail, Becky Kaler, Jay Mason, and Eduardo Hayden. And without further ado, I'd like to turn things over to my co-host, Mary Ford Nail.
So hello, everybody, and welcome. And we're really excited to be with you today to talk about procurement opportunities. And we figure this is an ongoing conversation that we're going to have. So you're going to have resources after you leave today, and you'll be able to reach out to any of us and all of us after today's session. So a couple of housekeeping items. We just want to let you know that today's session is being recorded. So the good news is that we'll be able to post a link from today's event on the City and County Economic Development websites. It'll probably be Monday or next week before that link goes up. Additionally, we'll be able to send a PDF version of today's presentation to you, to all the attendees. So you'll have these resources in your hands and you won't have to jot a lot of notes down, okay? So as part of today's discussion, we're going to have some presentations by some fantastic speakers, and there will be opportunities for some Q&A. So we want to encourage you to enter your questions into the Q&A feature. Try to save the chat. We're going to save the chat for sending you some links and so forth, but we'd like you to use the Q&A feature to feed your questions into the panel. We'll be monitoring that, and we'll help to be able to bring those questions forth to our speakers and the applicable speaker as much as time permits. So I also want to remind you, if for some reason you have some kind of technical issue, please go ahead and you can send that also through the Q&A to the panelist and or moderator. So that's fine too, okay? So let me just go ahead here, and I would like to now introduce our very, very first speaker. And let me just pull up his information here. So our first presenter today is Eduardo Hayden. Eduardo is with the he's the Small Business Outreach Manager at the Governor's Office of Small, Minority, and Women Business Affairs, sometimes referred to as GOSBA. So he's dedicated to ensuring that the state of Maryland provides opportunities to small, minority, women, and veteran businesses. So he's been a resource. He's worked before in Frederick, just to let you know that. And he helps to provide lots of information from the state contracting arena so that you have the ability to understand how to get started. So without further ado, I would like to go ahead and introduce to you today, Eduardo.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the presentation I'm going to go over. And so just bear with me for one quick second. Okay. All right, as Mary mentioned, and again, thank you to everybody, to Frederick County, the City of Frederick, the public school systems, Platinum, for all of their wonderful work and support. My particular job is that, again, a small business outreach manager for the governor's office of small minority and women business affairs. The first thing I'll sort of highlight here for us today is an understanding of the landscape, right? Understanding, are we dealing with a healthy economy? Now, obviously with COVID, everyone's impacted. Everyone's trying to recover. But what's important to know about the state of Maryland is that we did go into this situation with a very healthy economy, and that makes it a lot better for us to be able to recover quicker, right? Actually, just today, they put out some information about the unemployment rate continues to go down. So that means more businesses are operating, more businesses are hiring, more people are working. Part of that is the fact that we, over the course of the governor being on, we've generated well over 120,000 new jobs. We've moved into the first in the nation as far as minority and women business ownership, second in the nation in emerging technologies and innovation, and third in the nation for entrepreneurial growth. Again, all of these are just measures that demonstrate we have a healthy platform to build upon. And a lot of what we're going to do today is to help you guys continue with that process as we recover from COVID. Now, our office, Governor's Office of Small Minority and Women Business Affairs, here are the things that we concentrate on. We want to connect as many small businesses to greater economic opportunities, okay? Whether that's in state contracting or whether it's us connecting you to other resources or partners such as the county, city, universities, community colleges, public school systems, all of that. It's our job to help connect you to these things. We do handle the oversight, monitoring, and compliance for 3 state procurement programs, which I'll cover in a minute. And this expands over 70 state agencies and departments. We also conduct statewide outreach and training. What I'm doing today is a part of that kind of outreach and training. And then we host various online resources to help with small business growth and development. And so that's basically just a way to help provide all of the connections and the resources that are out there that are going to help you be a better competitor and to be able to obtain success as you move forward. So I'm going to talk about things in 2 forms today, some tips about the procurement process, what that entails, and then I'm going to talk about how do you find opportunities with the state of Maryland. Tip number 1 is a part of what we consider knowing who your customer is. And for you guys, it's important to understand what exactly is procurement as it relates to the law, right? So COMAR Title 21 sort of dictates, according to the law, what is this process of us, the state, and our departments doing business with you, the vendors. So the more you know about what this process is to us and where you fall in, the more you know who we are, then you can meet our needs and you can do it in a way that's more competitive. So the first tip for all of you is please, not the most exciting reading that you're gonna find, right? But COMAR Title 21 is important reading that you should have and you should understand. Tips 2 and 3. If you want to do business with the state, it's important that you are always in good standing, right? This happens to the Maryland Department of Assessment and Taxation. This is part of business management. right? Every year you have to submit certain forms to the state and you have to pay a particular fee, right? So keeping up with those kinds of things is what allows you to be in good standing. When you're not doing that, right, we're going to look at those factors, whether to determine whether we're going to do business with someone or not. The other one is that you have to be registered in EMA, which is eMaryland Marketplace Advantage. That is our e-procurement system. This is basically the primary database of all businesses that want to do business with the state. So you have to be registered in there. Tip 4 is the state procurement programs, knowing what they are. The first one would be Small Business Reserve Program. This is a prime contracting program. It has a 15% set aside. It is race and gender neutral. By that we mean we're not looking at those factors to determine if you fit for this program. What we are looking at, however, is the size of your business. And we're looking at 2 factors here: number of employees and gross sales over the last 3 years. Okay, so let's say you're fresh out the door and you haven't been out for more than a month. Then we're going to put more attention on the number of employees versus the financials, because there's nothing there for you to submit yet, right? If you're under those 3 years, same thing. You submit what you do have, and we're going to pay attention to both. Either or are necessary, and there are certain thresholds which you can find if you go to our website, what those thresholds are for each industry. The registration process for this program happens through EMA, our e-procurement system, okay? And it takes 20 minutes to do it. So it's not too much of a process. The second program is Minority Business Enterprise Program, MBE program. A lot of people are familiar with that. We've had this program out for 40+ years now. We are considered sort of the gold standard in the US with how we run this program. And a lot of that is because it's legislatively based, right? And so it does allow for us to do a lot better with that kind of stuff. Its subcontracting program has a 29% aspirational goal. This one is race and gender specific. So we are looking at presumed groups that fit within these 2 things, whether you're a woman-owned company, African-American, Hispanic, Asian, etc. Now this one's application-based. This particular certification process is handled through the Office of Minority Business Enterprise, which happens through MDOT, which is the Department of Transportation. They oversee the certification process. We oversee the compliance to the program, right? So we're looking at, are the businesses and the agencies complying when it comes to their interaction with each other? Whereas MDOT is looking at your certification process. Now here's an important thing to keep in mind. MBEs that happen to be a prime contractor and they're giving a contract with MBE goals, you get the benefit of performing 50% of that goal for yourself. So you only have to share the other half with another MBE. Okay, so that's a benefit. The last one, veteran-owned Small Business Enterprise Program. This is the newest one. It's a subcontracting program. It has a 1% aspirational goal. Now we have new verification process to go through. It used to be that you could only be verified at the federal vet biz level to participate here. We changed that, the law changed that here in the state. Now we actually go through a state-based verification process, right? You do this through EMA, eMaryland Marketplace, and what you would do there is if you're a veteran and you have a veteran-owned business, of course, you submit a DD-214 form that gets verified with Veterans Affairs Office in Maryland, and then you're assigned a number, and then our office will handle the rest of that process to make sure you're in the program. It'll take a few days to a week for that process to take place. Now, important note, certification in one or any of all of these programs is not required for you to do business with us. However, understanding or knowing your customer, right, is understanding why should you certify, right? And so the fact that we're going to try to have, the fact that we have these programs is that we're trying to narrow the gap of disparity between minority and non-minority companies in the contracting space. So because we're going to participate and we're going to apply goals of each of these programs, you having a certification in one or all that apply is to your benefit. But it means that you'll be on the directory to be able to participate to help us achieve these minority and these program goals, okay? All right, tip number 5. How do we put solicitations forward? There's 2 ways, through bids or through proposals. On the bid side, the best way to sort of think about it is, in the bid part, we know the problem and we know the solution. We're just looking for a vendor who's going to provide us the lowest price, right? So we're going to look for the most responsive, most responsible bidder at the lowest price. For a proposal, we know the problem, but we do not know the solution. So we need you to propose a solution, right? In this case, we're going to look for the most responsive, the most responsible offerer that's providing the best value, right? So in this case, on a proposal, we may not always accept the lowest price, right? We will sometimes take a price that may be higher, but if it's part of the best value package, that's what we'll take. Now, another important note with proposals is if you do not get accepted, let's say you don't make the cut, you have this time-sensitive window of opportunity to ask for a debrief, to ask the procurement officer, why were you not selected, right? But again, time-sensitive, it's a small window of opportunity. So it's important that as soon as you find out I didn't make the cut, start asking, can I have a debrief? Important note also, late submissions are never going to be accepted, okay? Which leads us to what is responsive and responsible. Responsive relates to the tangible documents that you're submitting to the state, and are you doing it on according to the designated date? So it's how do you respond to bids and proposals? Are you doing it? Are you submitting what we're asking for? And are you sending it in within a time frame? Right? This is an aspect of your business management capacity, right? So it's something that we're measuring. On the other side, responsible will relate to your technical and your financial capacity. Right now we're looking at other things. You know, do you have what it takes to actually deliver on whatever the scope of work is, right? And so we're going to look at other factors. We could even look at references in this side to find out how did you do this work before, right? So we're looking at reliability, integrity factors. And both responsive and responsible will always apply to both bids and proposals. Okay, tip 7, procurement levels and categories. 2 levels are small procurements, that's everything 50,000 or less, or level 2 procurement, formal procurements of 50,000 and above. Now this gets a little tricky, right? Why so? Okay, so as you notice here, there are 3 categories for small procurements. Category 1 and 2 are exactly the same in the way that they are handled through a direct solicitation method. The only difference is the dollar amount. Category 1, 0 to 5,000. Category 2, 5,000 and $1 to 15,000. Now these do not by law have to be listed publicly, which is why we use a direct solicitation method. That means if you're on someone's, what do you call it? If you're on someone's Rolodex, right? That dates me a little bit, but if you're on someone's Rolodex, they're gonna call you, send you an email. You're only competing against 3 or 4 other people that are in the area, and they're gonna look for the lowest price, right? The buyer has the judgment to make a call here. Now, when we get to category 3, which is 15,000 and $1 up to 50,000, the law states that anything 15,000 and above has to be posted publicly on EMA. So because that's the case, it's going to be treated through a formal solicitation method, just like a 50,000 plus or a formal procurement, right? So those are operate almost similar. But those are the levels and the categories. And if you have questions on that, submit them and we can discuss it a little further later. All right, tip number 8. And then after this, we'll get into how to look for opportunities. Tip number 8 here would be Emma utilizes this coding system for your products and services, right? It's called the UN SPSC coding system, which is a United Nations / Dun & Bradstreet coding system, international. My suggestion to all of you is before you register in Emma, look up what your codes are, do a search. You might have to use different words in that search title, and then come up with a list of what those are, okay? And then in a little bit, I'll tell you why I'm asking you to do that first. All right, so how do we find opportunities with the state so you can build a pipeline? 3 ways: eMaryland Marketplace, which is Emma, procurement forecast, and SBR and MBE liaisons related to those small procurements under 15,000. Okay, there's actually a 4th way, but I'm not going to get into that one too much. All I'll say about that is that that's the Board of Public Works, right? This is something that is streamed live every other Wednesday. It has the governor, the comptroller, and the treasurer, and they're looking at all opportunities that are $200,000 and above. And that's sort of the final process before approval. But it's worth going to that website for Maryland, Board of Public Works, BPW, and looking up the agenda, who the companies are, what kind of contracts they are. It's just good information, business intelligence. But these are the 3 primary ways to find opportunities. All right, Emma, which you can go to emma.maryland.gov. 2 things you'll find right now is you'll still find a notice for suppliers related to COVID. Okay, so if you go to that link and you're in that space, you can kind of find out what opportunities are there specific to providing certain supplies and equipment that relate to COVID. Otherwise, go to public solicitations. That's going to open up a window. You go to where keywords are. In this case, I just did a basic one for HVAC to see what would come up. And here's the information you get, right? You get to see the date for when these are coming out or due, the product or service, which that's the code. Now notice that they're not putting numbers here. They're listed under main categories. So they're using the descriptive part of what those codes mean, right? And then you see the solicitation type. Sorry, I'm tripping over my words here, but you'll find if it's a bid or a proposal, that kind of stuff. And then the issuing agency. Now you'll notice in this little thing here, we do not only post state opportunities. We actually are posting things from Baltimore City Public Schools. You'll find other stuff here from universities. You may find things here from a quasi-governmental office, such as, I don't know, WSSC for Washington Suburban Sanitation Commission, right? So you're not only gonna find using Emma just things for the state, but you'll find things for the county, the city, the public school system, universities, and so on. So it's a good tool to use. All right, so what happens if we click on one of these opportunities? What do you get? So you get another window in there. Here you get some golden information. Who's the buyer? And more importantly, what's their contact information, right? So now you have someone that you can communicate with about this opportunity, right? And this is where if you know your customer, meaning the state, and you know our process, when you look at these things and you read through them, you'll be able to determine, are there any barriers here that I need to address that will not allow me to compete for this better, right? You'll find things like that. So you notice it's got a summary. Here you're gonna find various information pertinent to the, whatever the solicitation is. Now, if you were to scroll down, you may find where it says additional instructions. There you may find things such as, you know, there are pre-bid meetings you need to go to, things of that nature. But you'll also find things like, is there any MBE or one of the program participation goals? In this case, it says MBE, but if it was SBR, you could see that it's SBR. If it's got VSBE goals, you could find that as well. Now, I'm gonna go back for 1 second. If you wanted to look for opportunities specific to SBR, MBE, VSBE, you go to the advanced search. It's right underneath the keywords there. You click that and it'll open up a window and you can do a check mark and you can look for things specific to just those areas. All right, procurement forecast, the other way that you can find things. So this is on our website, gomd.smallbiz.maryland.gov. Very top, you'll see procurement forecast. You'll click on there. You're going to get this particular portal. Different ways to search. You can search anything from a keyword to the specific quarter within that fiscal year, which is the projected advertisement dates. That's what that means, right? So you can search based on all of these. Now, the critical step in all of this, when you do a search, this particular screen, you're going to see a snapshot only of opportunities. When you hit export to Excel, what you get is you get, as an example here, what you get is you get a spreadsheet. This is collapsed, so it's a partial view. I can't fit everything in here, but you'll find information from the agency, a description of what it is, to the dates. You will even find incumbent information, who's holding a particular contract right now that, let's say, comes due in 3 months, right? Or in the third quarter or what have you, right? So it's good information, but more importantly, you see who the buyer is and what their contact info is as well. So again, you're finding opportunities, you're setting yourself up, you can start building relationships to figure out when these come due, how do you compete for them? So this is very important. That's the forecast. Now this is typically a static document, meaning once we submit this document for the fiscal year, which runs July through June of the next year, it just stays in there. Now this year, they're thinking of maybe doing some updates as the year goes on, primarily because because of COVID, sorry. The impacts of COVID may impact budgetary issues for some of these agencies. So they have some projected things maybe they put on this form. And if the budget doesn't come through, they may have to not go that route, right? The only way is go to the buyer for that opportunity and just ask them about the status. All right, the last one, small procurements under 15,000. Because these do not get listed, they don't have to be listed, right? They have that option. And if they are listed, most likely it'll be at an agency website. The best way to approach an agency about these kind of opportunities is to go to our website and pull up the SBR or MBE liaison list, right? If you go to that directory, let's say you've identified some agencies that you know sort of put stuff out that is in your space, you approach them and you have to ask them specifically about, I want to know about these procurements that are under 15,000 and who do I approach and how do I approach them, right? Because it may be different for each one or for different agencies. Some will tell you, send me an email. Some will say, send me a capability statement and send it here. So you got to work that out by connecting with the liaisons. All right, tip number 9. With COVID, I would just suggest to everyone that you stay well informed, right? So if you were to go to this particular, and this will be shared with you afterwards, and that link will be live, that will sort of give you a status as to where we are. As you all should know by now, we're in the beginning stages of stage 3, which is meant to open up the economy a little bit more and stuff like that. So it's important that you keep up to date with what is that? What does that mean for my business? You know, if you rely heavily on foot traffic, right? This is a perfect place to kind of understand what does that mean, right, for you. So just keep an eye on that and stay informed with this information. All right, so I believe I'm at the end here. So I'll say thank you, first of all, for the attention. You can always reach out to me at the email that's listed here. If you want to get on a list for us to stay connected so that you can be on our list for, let's say, bulletins or events or trainings that we're going to be putting forward, go to our website, and at the bottom of that first page, you'll see something that says stay connected. You input your email, and then that gets added to a larger database that we use for bulletins and events and trainings and things of that nature. There you go. I'm done.
Great. Eduardo, I was going to say we have a lot of great questions that are cropping up in the Q&A box. So I'm going to try to get to some of those now for you. So one question was, can a business apply for these opportunities if they're headquartered in a different state, but work and live in Maryland?
Okay, so you can apply for these opportunities. The state of Maryland with the surrounding region sort of has this memorandum of understanding that we will not punish people that are outside of our states or our regions for wanting to do business with us, in part because if you're a business here, but you want to go do business with Virginia, Delaware, DC, or anybody else, we don't want you to be punished, right? So there's sort of this understanding that we are allowing for that to occur, right? Now, what you would want to check is you want to check with the Maryland Department of Assessment and Taxation first to find out if to be able to do business in the state, do you need to have a physical presence as a business, whether it's a remote office, do you have to register with the state on some level before you're allowed to sort of, so I would say go to Maryland Department of Assessment and Taxation for that piece, just to make sure.
Great. That's, again, great information and great questions we have coming up here. We definitely have a couple of MBEs, certified MBEs online today. And the state of Maryland MBE program is an excellent, they say absolutely excellent program, and provides a lot of access and awards to minorities on prime and subcontractor levels. So as the beneficiary of MBE awards, this question was posed: how are the MBE subcontract specific race, for example? Are there any buckets that some of those subcontractor awards go into based upon race?
Yes, those would be considered sub-goals.
Okay.
Right? So let's say as an example here would be, let's say you have $1 million contract. Let's say they say there's a 20% overall MBE goal. As part of that 20%, sub-goals may designate certain groups, you know, specific to whatever that industry is. So they may say, and I don't know the percentage, so I'm just throwing any percentage. They might say 10% has to go to African American, or 7% has to go to women, or it has to go to Asian. So as part of the overall 20, you may have smaller buckets within it specific to a particular group, right? Now, how they determine that, that's something that happens through what they call a procurement review group. And so those are the people, these subject matter experts who get together when they're going to put a solicitation, and they go through the process of determining, is this something that can be an MBE contract, a small business reserve? Should it have veteran small business goals to it? And so they do a lot of market research to figure that kind of stuff out. And within that process, if it's highlighted, give you an example. Maybe Asian companies, maybe they don't do as well, let's say in construction, for whatever reason. If that's part of, and all this comes from a disparity study that's done every 5 years. So the last one was 2017. So if that one stated Asian companies are not doing as well in the industry of construction for whatever reason, because there's not enough companies maybe in the space, that may be a reason why they might have a sub goal for Asian companies in a construction contract. So you may have that part of a 20% goal, certain percentage has to go to an Asian company because they're trying to get more companies that are in that space to be able to participate. If that makes sense. So that would be the answer.
Yeah, I think it does. And actually, there was a follow-up question to that too as well, and asked why are sometimes maybe these sub-goals applied on certain types of orders, maybe say, for example, an IT contractor, and why sometimes not? Is it not just areas? Could it also be industry specific on these goals?
I mean, every contract is handled on its own merit, I guess you could say. And so again, it's that procurement review process or group that sort of figures out what what needs to happen here or in that space. And again, I don't know the full extent to who decides or at what point they decide for sub goals to be included. But there is a process and they're always looking at that. So it's not every contract that comes forward, they're always going through a process where they're going to say, is this something that can just go forward? Does it need to have goals for MBEs, for SBRs, VSBEs? Does it need sub goals? So they're always going to look at all of those factors and then they determine based, I guess, on who, I guess what information is out there, whether that's industry, a market, that part I don't know. So, but if they want further and they let me know and they send an email or what have you, I can always go to the legal policy side of our office and find out what that answer would be.
That's great, great information. Okay, so this question just came in kind of live. What is the best way to get that Rolodex? And again, I'm old enough to remember Rolodex, but maybe some of us don't. It's your database of, who these card holders are that are, making decisions on the small procurement end.
So, I mean, there's two ways that I would say. If you use Emma and you sort of input what your product or service is, right? And you kind of identify what activity is in that space for your product or service. And then you can sort of identify what agencies are sort of looking for stuff that's in that space. That may be a starting point to just narrow down an agency to then approach. Once you have that agency, you go to the SBR and MBE liaison list, and that's your point of entry. And it's from there that you ask, I want to know about those small procurements. How do I get in touch with the buyers? Okay, their job, the SBR and MBE liaisons, again, by a legislative mandate, are there to be that connector between vendors and between the agency, right? And so part of their job is to be there for these kinds of inquiries to take place, and they know it. So from our perspective, we do training for SBR and MBE liaisons, and they're consistently being told, you should expect to get inquiries about small procurements because we're telling people that's what they have to do. And since that's what they're there to also help do, that's where they go, right? And so they know that those kind of things are going to come their way.
Great. And I know Sherman can attest to this as well. We get asked this question a lot in economic development, but how long does it take to become certified MBE? And what additional requirements are there for a business that, I'm a business, I've been in existence now, and I want to try to take this on. And it's a very daunting process. So how long does it take and what are those first steps?
All right, so, and I didn't say that when I went over that, but the MBE process takes at least 90 days. Okay, so you should be prepared for a 90-day process. Now with COVID, people working from home, that kind of stuff, social distancing, I don't know how they're handling other aspects. So what happens is when you apply for this process, they're going to attach a MBE officer to your case. That person will then go through the process of gathering your financials. And then part of that is they want to come out and see, where do you work? Or they want to be at a work site where you're at to find out, how do you do your business, right? And it doesn't matter if you work from home in your basement, your garage, or you have an office that you go to. We don't really care. They just want to know how things are moving and who's doing what and what that process. And they take all of that information. So it's all of that that takes some amount of time to gather financials, to look at certain things, to figure out how are you setting up the business. Part of that process is submitting what your product or service code is according to NAICS, which is a NICS code, different from the one in EMA. Here. And so they're looking at how do you actually fit into that space, right? Because some companies will say, well, this is what I do, and they put one of those codes, and as this process sort of goes forward, we find out you don't really fit there. You should rather have another code different. that better fits what you're trying to do here. So that's why all of this process takes long, about 90 plus days. Now, the best way to sort of go about it is they do have an online application that you can fill out. And they prefer you go that route because it's just less paper to deal with. But once you go through that process, that Office of Minority Business Enterprise, they do have ways for you to connect with someone who can give you assistance throughout the application process to make sure you're doing everything correct and complete. And they have application process workshops that take place the first Tuesday of every month.
Okay.
Right now they're virtual, but they're still doing them. And they're very consistent with that. I want to say quarterly, they have 2 in the one day, like at 9 in the morning or 10 in the morning and 1 at the afternoon at 5:30. But I'm not sure, when exactly those are. So the first Tuesday of every month. And so you go to that website for Office of Minority Business Enterprise at MDOT, Maryland Department of Transportation. And they have a link for the application workshops that you fill out and submit. And to me, that's the best way. Take the help. Don't pay someone. My personal opinion, do not pay someone to do it for you. Mm-hmm. Right? When you can go directly to the people who are going to say yes or no, and they're going to give you guidance for free. You just have to reach out to them and use that resource.
Eduardo, if I could ask you a question, just to piggyback on what Mary said, has your organization tracked the amount of increased participation for minorities in the MBE program? Are there more minorities trying to become MBE certified because maybe they're finding out about it? Are the numbers growing?
Believe it or not, which is an interesting factor. Before COVID, yes, most definitely we were seeing an increase of people getting into the program. Mm-hmm. All of them. Small Business Reserve, the veteran, and the MBE. During COVID, since we're still kind of in it, it's slowed down, but it's still a healthy pace, right? So companies are continually, we had actually more than we would have thought interest of people who were doing the process during. So while we're in the middle of it, we were getting a lot of inquiries about, I'm starting it, I'm doing it now. And, so people are interested in it. So it's not going down, it's just slowed down. The pace has slowed down somewhat. Right. But I think that's going to pick up, the closer we get to the end of the year and in the beginning of next year. So we're on a good pace for it. People are interested and they're signing up, which is what we want.
Right. And I'm glad to see the increased participation. That means the word is getting out there, and also the recognition is also being out there as well.
Yeah, it's a complicated space per se when you go into it and you don't know enough about it. But once you sort of start learning what's what, and you're able to put it into its, parts, then it just becomes something that you know how to do, and you just have to get better at doing it, right? Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, again, and we just want to remind everyone, we are recording today's session, and we will be able to email the presentation out after probably next week, as well as place a link to today's presentation on both the city and county economic development pages. So be looking for that. So if you missed something, we'll try to get to it. If there's something you need follow up on afterwards, you'll have the ability to follow up with the presenters. So Eduardo, just a couple more questions. And again, if there's some last minute questions, throw it in the Q&A box, please. But right now in the state of Maryland, regarding procurement, there's a set time frame to ask for a debrief and to protest it if you feel that the government has failed to comply with solicitation guidelines and regulations. So could you just describe that protest process as succinctly as you can?
This is one of those areas where I'm not as well versed because I'm not the one who has to deal with that process, which is why I said it's time sensitive and you have to sort of address that as soon as possible. What I can do for that question specifically is I can give a more full-throated answer, but I'd have to go to our policy and legal representative in the office, because most likely she's the one who would be involved in the process if she has to be, right? So if you have to protest, and these are things that question is an example. Those are the kind of questions that you get when you know your customer better and you know the procurement process. So I would suggest if you see something that comes out, I would immediately reach out to whoever the procurement officer is and ask them right off the bat, before you even start responding to anything else, I just want to know, what is your process for this contract as it relates to a protest or a debrief? And they should be able to guide you on some level there, right? So that's a starting point. Outside of that, I'd have to actually look up more specifically what that process is in general.
So great. Again, we'll be able to connect you offline, and in order to help maybe make some connections for you too as well afterwards. So one last question I see before we move to the next phase of our presentation. Will the forecast have opportunities that are being released upon the state of Maryland? And I see a CATS Plus, I don't know what that is, contract vehicle, EMA, and other procurement channels.
Is it something that, okay, so CATS Plus deals with IT, Department of IT, right?
Okay.
So, and then, I mean, if I'm understanding the question, there's about 70 agencies, right? All of those agencies are asked to give a report, which includes Department of IT, as to what projected opportunities do they have that they're gonna have coming out. Now, when you get to IT or CATS, that may be a little different in that the Department of IT, as an example, has a lot of master contracts or master contractors even. And they'll sometimes put out a task order request for proposal, as an example, right? So they have a contract, they know what they got to kind of do with some of that, but then they'll break that down into a smaller process through task orders. And so your opportunities is not the master contract itself, but are the task orders that fall within it, right? And so for things like that, your starting place should be Do It. You go to their website, they're gonna most likely list what those things are, and they may have their own list of things that are coming up. Right? So maybe the combination of using EMA to find out what's available now, going to Do It, if that's your space, and using the forecast, you may find some things will cross over. You might find something in the forecast that's for, the final quarter that no one is listed yet, right? But if you do, then you go back to whoever is listed as that contact person and Do It. So, I mean, you have to kind of deal with all three. I would go to Do It first if it's specific to CATS, right? To the CATS program and that kind of stuff, which is specific to IT.
Great, great. Well, again, thank you so much, Eduardo, today. I know you'll still be hanging online, and at the end of the session, if there's some additional questions, we hope you'll be available to still field some questions.
Good job, Eduardo.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So again, just want to remind you again, we are recording. You'll get a copy of the presentation. If you have any questions, try to put them in the Q&A. And now we're going to kind of shift a little bit and discuss procurement processes within Frederick County Government, the City of Frederick, and Frederick County Public Schools. And I think that the key takeaway is to know that everybody has different processes. So you're going to meet some of the great people who can help you with that. We'll have our three presenters speak back to back, and there will be time to answer some questions at the end of this joint presentation. So again, please, you can put your questions in any time during any of their presentations, and we'll try to monitor them and feed them out after they collectively present their sections. So I'd like to give you a little bit of bio on our presenters that are going to be coming up. First, we have Diane Fouché. Diane is the Director of Procurement and Contracting for Frederick County and has been in that role for 8 years. So she started procurement as a buyer for Montgomery County Public Schools for almost 10 years before moving over to Howard County as the Assistant Director of the Purchasing Office for almost 5 years. The Frederick County Procurement Department has a staff of 12, and it supports more than 20 divisions, the Sheriff's Office, Health Department, libraries, and a nursing home, all of which make this county of more than 250,000 residents a great place to live and work. And we can attest to that, absolutely. Next up, you'll hear from Keisha Brown. So Keisha Brown is the purchasing manager for the City of Frederick. She's been in procurement for 8 years and in her current position for 4 years. The city purchasing team supports over 30 departments, serving approximately 72,000 residents. And I will also share that Keisha is a member of the city's DBE panel, which is Disadvantaged Business Enterprise panel too, and she'll be able to provide you some interesting updates as to what's going on with procurement policies in the City of Frederick. And then last would be Carrie Koopman. And Carrie is the purchasing manager for Frederick County Public Schools. And she's accompanied today by Mr. Jay Mason, who is the Vice President of the Board of Education. Carrie has been in procurement for 20 years and has worked on both state and local governments. Carrie and 8 other procurement professionals make up the centralized procurement team at FCPS. And this team supports all public schools in Frederick County, serving over 44,000 students. So you have a wealth of knowledge here today. I'm looking forward to some great discussions. Diane, we're going to go ahead and start with you today, followed by Keisha and then Carrie. Diane.
Okay, I'm trusting that I can be heard.
You're good.
You press the unmute, you don't really know what you're getting. Hi, I'm Diane Fouché. I'm the Director of Procurement and Contracting for Frederick County, Maryland. Thank you guys so much for having this. I think this is a great opportunity to tell a little bit more about what we do and also to tell people how to get involved with what we do. I'm going to share my screen now. Correct? Is it shared? Yay. Okay. Well, I'm so excited to tell you that over the last week, I've been married to Mr. Fouché for 5 years, but last week I figured out how to put the thing over the E. So no longer will I be Diane Fouch. You can actually pronounce it correctly because I know how to do the E now. Not all the time, but sometimes. And I think that's important. So I was very excited to do that this time. But I am the Director of Procurement and Contracting for Frederick County, Maryland. That's all of the county. The libraries, as she said, it's everything from emergency management, also social services and health. There are state agencies that fall under, and elections, and also the libraries are individual agencies that fall under the county. The county actually has a couple of different thresholds that we hold to in our purchasing, and this is also for our credit card purchases. We have a pretty significant credit card program that we utilize. Our small purchase threshold is a disappointing $2,500. Everyone else in the state has kind of moved forward, and we're hoping to do that next year. But at this time, ours is still a $2,500 small purchase amount. And anything less than $2,500 is purchased by the individual agencies without our knowledge or oversight. They do the best they can with that, and they're allowed to do that. Informal purchases are $2,500 to $30,000, and the rule of thumb is if it's less than $15,000, you can do it by phone. Anything over $15,000 really requires something in writing, and then anything over $30,000 actually requires a formal written solicitation conducted by the Department of Procurement and Contracting. One of the things, a couple of different things that we do not have an MBE program. We don't have a set aside. We don't have a small business program. We actively encourage their participation in our solicitations, but Frederick County runs a blind procurement. The benefit of that is that we don't track anything, and we honestly have no idea who we're awarding. They're just the best man for the job. However, the bad thing is we can't track anything, and that's something that's been watched by the county executive very carefully. And I think that I'm hoping to say in the future to have some news on this front. But at this time, we don't have that opportunity. In the future, I think things are going to change in the next couple of years. And I'm actually looking forward to be part of that process. One of the things I want to encourage people, I want to notify people and encourage them of, is that we have something called an open door policy. We get a lot of questions, we get a lot of people, and one of the questions that was asked was, how do we get on someone's Rolodex? And everyone knows a business card and a business storefront, and you can send brochures and you can print bios, but nothing is as significant and impactful as a face-to-face encounter with someone who actually does the purchasing. So one of the things that Frederick County has is something we call the open door policy. And the open door policy means that you contact me and you say, hey, I'm a business that wants to meet with your agency that does the purchasing for what it is that I offer the services for. For example, if you're a construction company, you would want to meet with Charles Knipe. He's the division director for Public Works. If you have something for the health department, a lot of PPE vendors right now are coming in for face-to-faces. And that's how you get on someone's Rolodex. I can get you 30 minutes in the room for you to really sell your business face-to-face with the person at the Frederick County Government who actually actively purchases what it is that you're selling. It's a huge time commitment for our division directors, but it's something that the county executive feels very strongly about and really encourages that face-to-face, because that's where you're going to get in. In order for, because some of the most frequent purchases are in fact the less than $30,000. They go out in 10s and 20s, as opposed to the big formal purchases that go out less frequently. But it's something that I just want to make people aware of, that they have that opportunity. The other one little piece of advice I will give as well is that if you have not yet bid with Frederick County Government, we are under the same Public Information Act as every other government agency out there. I often encourage vendors, if you are looking at submitting a response to a solicitation for the first time, do a PIA request. Email the buyer and say, under the Public Information Act, I'm asking for a copy of the winning solicitation from last time, the winning response. And we will be providing that to you so that you can see who won last time. You know how they answered, you know what they were looking for. Another little gem that I'll give you is you can also ask for a copy of the last purchase order that went to that agency or that vendor. So if ABC company was awarded this bid and you want to bid on it, then you want to see what ABC submitted in their proposal, and you have the right to do that because it's public information. On top of that, you also have a right to see the last purchase order that went out to them. How much is the county spending? How frequently is the county spending? These are often available to you at little to no cost, more often than not no cost, but sometimes there's a small fee. But those are things that you can absolutely put those in your toolbox. We get a large number of PIA requests, but it seems like they're for the same exact contracts. And when a new contractor is coming in and attempting to secure an award for themselves, they're not looking into it enough. So I always encourage people, PIA request me, ask me for the last bid. I'm happy to give it to you. I encourage that competition. Trying to go to the next one. I think I froze a little bit there. The unique things that Frederick County buys, anything that's large scale, that's consulting services for information technologies, specialized architectural and engineering services, on-call maintenance, overhead doors, construction services, road resurfacing, tree removal, temporary personnel. Obviously, PPE is coming up right now, huge. We actually are just in the process of purchasing a place to actually store everything, not just now, but we're looking to the future. We have an excellent county executive who is holding the hand of the agencies and moving us to the future so that we have this and we never run into a situation where our storefronts are empty of the things that we absolutely need to be safe and to protect the constituents of the county. The current opportunities that you can find up on our website, everything is available to you on our website. Our website is just frederickcountymd.gov/procurement. But even if you just go to the Frederick County, Maryland, you're going to see one of the major pieces of real estate on the front of our website, I'm proud to say, is a link to the procurement office. And we have, we're doing some sale of property for affordable housing. We're doing outside bollards for the courthouse, an integrated library system, overhead doors and motorized gates, and replacement of exterior steps, senior nutrition, restaurant initiative, and computer-aided dispatch system. That's the new CAD system for law enforcement and jail management system. So those are just some of the things that you'll see coming up on our website. In addition to that, on our website, we actually will have, or we do have, a list of future bid opportunities. The time you want to find out about a bid is about 6 months in advance. So if you see something coming up in the next 6 months and you want to know when the solicitation is coming out, what exactly they're going to be doing, how much is going to be spent on that bid, definitely contact our buyers. We have a list of all the buyers on our website, and we're absolutely happy to help you and encourage that competition by letting you know exactly what it is that is coming up in the future. I call that our pipeline opportunities, and that's available on our website. One of the other things I want to tell you is that anytime you have any questions about a solicitation, it is in your best interest to definitely come back to the website. I'm trying to find how to stop sharing. I don't know how to do that. Oh, okay. It seems so funny. I do these all the time, and so for some reason, it's
you should be able on
it's
the
not working.
share
It's not
screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Did it stop?
If you want to drop that link into the box, we'll make sure we share that with the
Okay.
group.
I definitely will.
Okay, great. Diane, did you have anything else? I mean, I know you're going to be hanging on for some additional questions at the end.
Yeah. Nope, I'm done. Thank you so much.
Okay, Diane, thanks so much. Up next is Keisha Brown with the City of Frederick.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. As Mary said, I'm Keisha Brown, the purchasing manager with the City of Frederick. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon with everyone else. Getting to learn about their processes and to teach people how to work through our processes. So we are probably the smallest entity represented. We are. Our office has 3 people that are directly related to procurement activities, and I do all the formal solicitations. So it's busy, but it's always very interesting and different. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. So you should be able to see that. There we go. Let me click over and we'll start talking a little bit about our policy and how we post different opportunities. Eduardo mentioned COMAR in the state. As a city with home rule, we're governed by our policy. And the full policy is available online through our website. But we do buy a variety of goods and services. I know Diane just went over a list of things the county buys. We buy very similar things, all kinds of different things, but not everything. And I think that's important to remember. We do some things in-house. For example, I get a lot of inquiries about small tech companies that want to do some sort of technology work for us. And we do have our own in-house IT department, so we don't do a lot of that purchasing just like that. So I think it's important to be upfront about what we do and don't purchase, and I'm happy to speak with anyone who has questions, if we may be in the market for what you do. We do have long-term contracts as well, things that we use year after year. Example, we have concrete and paving contracts that renew for up to 5 years, but you can always ask about those when they're up for renewal. As Diane mentioned, you can always request the most recent awardees submission, POs, things like that, so you can be prepared when they are up to go back out to bid. Within our policy, we do have 3 levels of procurement. Our lowest level we call our non-competitive, and we were fortunate several years ago. As I said, we are a very small department. So under 10,000 is non-competitive for us. And that's typically department heads who will go out and find the best value. And they are very experienced and they do an awesome job, but again, they do not have to compete those things. If you want to get on their Rolodex, so to speak, to learn about those opportunities, maybe have them come to you in the future, you can email me and I can connect you with them. We don't have a formal program in place. Diane mentioned her open door program. We don't have anything formally in place, but we do connect interested vendors with our department heads. And we may move towards something more formal. I know right now everything's virtual, but in the future we'd love to have folks coming into the office and meeting face to face. The next threshold category we have is between 10 and just under 50,000. Those are written quotations for us. We require a minimum of 3 written quotations. And those are attached to the requisition and the purchase order is made from there. Again, it's important that the department heads or buyers know about your company, and I'll talk more to that here in just a second. Our final threshold is anything $50,000 or over, and that we call a formal solicitation. It has to be done through procurement, has to be posted publicly, and it would be either the bid or the RFP. I know Eduardo did a great job talking about the differences of that and what would make either responsive and responsible. So those are our thresholds. And then down here, sort of midway on the screen, is the link to our procurement portal. You can also get to this directly from our website. There's a link there as well. But in July of 2019, we moved to a fully electronic process for our formal solicitations. We do still advertise in the local Frederick News Post, and we'll direct you to the site in that advertisement. And we also try to post notices on EMMA, which is that state system that will again direct you back to our portal. So here, the biggest thing is towards the right hand of that screenshot, you'll see supplier registration. And it's important that you go in there and register so that we are able to find you when we need to procure the things that you offer. We do have a commodity code system, as Eduardo talked about as well. There are several different kinds of commodity code systems. Ours is proprietary to the software vendor, but it is, in my opinion, fairly user-friendly. You can go in there and search by keyword. And we recommend that you add all the codes that you would fall into. And then you can be notified as formal solicitations are posted with those codes. I should mention that down here at the bottom, you'll see some boxes: current bids, closed bids, awarded. And then we do have a link straight to our city purchasing homepage. The current, closed, and awarded, you can go in and view those without being registered. So that's just all right there, information you can take a look at. And as you're registering, we know that it is a fairly new process, at least for us, and that some people may have questions. We're certainly here to help and expect and welcome those emails for help. So with that, I'll talk a little bit about our disparity study that's currently going on. Currently, our DBE policy does encourage use of DBE businesses, disadvantaged business enterprises, but there's no points awarded for that status or any sort of credit or anything given for that status currently. It's just the encouragement. So our legislature, our mayor and board of aldermen decided that they wanted to pursue a disparity study. And what that does is takes a look back. In our case, it's taking a look back 5 years and seeing if there's a disparity in basically firms available to do the work versus the firms that we select to do the work. If there's a disparity there for those disadvantaged business enterprises. And in order to get this study done, we did an RFP process. We ended up with 5 proposals. From that, the law firm Griffin & Strong was awarded. And we have contracted with them. Just a note, they did the first disparity study in the country, so they are definitely experts in their field. They do a lot of major studies. And essentially, they've done 3 things with us. They have reviewed our policy. They have interviewed staff. They've interviewed our DBE panel. They've interviewed vendors and prospective vendors. And then the last piece of that is the data review, which has been ongoing. We do expect a report early next year. And from that report, basically, if warranted, there will be policy and procedure adjustments so that we can make sure we're being as inclusive as possible. And also, there could be MBE or DBE goals implemented by the board, again, if they're warranted. A lot of court cases have gone on, and it has to be shown that you have the backup of the disparity study if you're having a program such as this. And the program has to be narrowly tailored. And that's the whole reason behind the study. First of all, to see where we're at, and then second of all, to see what we need to do moving forward. So for us to have anything other than aspirational goals, this disparity study is a requirement. It's something that's repeated or updated about every 5 years, so we anticipate that in the future. And again, like I said, early next year, we're thinking about around the February timeframe. There should be the report coming out of it, and we'll see what changes come from there. So our policy, you know, as it's written now, could be a little bit in flux as we go into next year. So with that, I'll go ahead and wrap up. That I know we've covered a lot today. And if you're interested specifically in doing business with the city, I'm always happy to assist, answer questions. This is my contact information. The link to our procurement portal and our just main purchasing webpage are both there at the bottom. And email's the best way to contact me. I can get back to that pretty quickly, but I'd be happy to speak with you in any form. So thank you very much for your time.
Great. And again, Keisha's going to hang online. We're going to be doing questions and answers after the next session. So please, again, type your questions and answers into the Q&A box, okay? Up next, we have Carrie Koopman with Frederick County Public Schools.
Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Koopman. I'm the purchasing manager at Frederick County Public Schools, and today I'm accompanying Board of Education Vice President Jay Mason. Share my screen. Did the PowerPoint come up?
Yes.
Okay. Uh-oh.
It's saying it's not responding.
Let's see. Is it back on now?
No, it is not up yet.
Let's see.
Yeah, I can pull it up if you want me to share it. Just give me one second.
Would you do that? Would you do that, please?
Yep.
Okay, just give us a second. And again, as we're getting this PowerPoint up, Reminder, please put your Q&A into the box. We're going to be putting some great links in the chat box for you. Great, I see the presentation. Okay, Carrie.
All right, thank you so much for helping me out there. So again, I'm Carrie Koopman, Purchasing Manager of Frederick County Public Schools, and I'm just going to go over a quick overview of doing business with FCPS. The first bullet you will find our website, www.fcps.org. There's all kinds of information on our webpage. You can find Board of Education information, which shows meeting dates, the agendas, videos, meeting minutes, as well as our regulations and policies. And then as far as purchasing goes, under our purchasing link, there will be a link to Emma, and the vendors must be registered to receive our public notice. So when we go to issue a solicitation, we will load it on Emma as a public notice, and that goes out to all the vendors stating that we have an open solicitation on the street and where you can view that, whether it be via our website or our online procurement platform. Also, you will find frequently asked questions. This will give you answers to our contracts, purchase orders, how to submit the information if you have a product or a service that you'd like us to know about. We also have on our website purchase order and conditions and general terms and conditions. So what you'll see there is all the terms and conditions that come on the back of our purchase order when one is submitted, as well as the general terms and conditions is what you'll find in our solicitations. There's also a tab for MBE information. There you'll find the forms that are required. They're downloadable so that you can fill those out and submit them if they're required in one of our solicitations. There is a document of MBE frequently asked questions that goes over the Emma Email Marketplace Advantage. It also provides information on the MDOT certification and MBE and SBE participation and requirements. There's also available an MBE resources page, and that will give you the links again to Emma, to MDOT, to GOSPA. It also has links for the City of Frederick as well as the county. We also post our procurement practices and regulations, as well as you can find contact information for all 9 of our team members' names, phone numbers, as well as email addresses. Sandy, if you can go to the next slide, thank you. Also on our website, there's a tab for solicitations and awards. Our thresholds are broken down from 0 to 25,000. We can go directly to a vendor with no quotes. We do try to get competitive quotes to be fair and reasonable, but our guidelines do not require us to get additional quotes for 0 to 25,000. 25,000 to 50,000, we have to obtain 3 written quotes, again, to make sure the prices are fair and reasonable. And then anything over $50,000 requires a competitive, either sealed proposal or invitation for bid. So under the solicitations and awards, you'll see our current solicitations, as well as any pre-bid meetings. Right now, due to COVID, we are holding our pre-bid meetings via Skype or Google Meet, and that's going to be included in the solicitation. We are currently obtaining our bid submissions electronically by via an e-procurement platform, Procure Now. This is a secured platform that we started to utilize in March, again, due to the pandemic. It's worked very well for us. It seems to be very user-friendly. We've roughly 30 solicitations have gone out on that since the pandemic began. We also sent an email out to about 75 vendors to get some feedback on our solicitations, as well as the new platform to make sure that they found it easy to use, to make sure they didn't have any concerns or any problems with it. And Procure Now, the vendor that we utilize, does have a live chat. So if you're having any problems with uploading or getting registered, they will be able to real-time walk you through the process. Also under current solicitations are where our bids will be opened. We do read them aloud to the attending public. Again, due to the pandemic, we're doing those via Skype or Google Meets. And hopefully once things get back to a new normal, we'll be able to hold those meetings again in person. You'll also see on our website pending awards, and these are IFB or RFP submittals that have been opened and are pending award by the Board of Education. So our purchasing agents will take these to the board, review the information from the solicitation, and the board will then give the approval. Once that's done, we can go ahead and issue the award. And the third tab under solicitations and award is our awarded documents. This is all of our current IFBs and RFPs that we are currently utilizing. Right now, there's over 200 of those listed on that spreadsheet. As far as forecasted solicitations, we have a couple that will be upcoming in the next couple months. That's the qualification for general and minor construction projects, as well as one for professional auditing services. The playground design, build services, and bulk EWF mulch supply hit the streets this week. That will be due on October the 16th. We've also recently posted a Green Valley and Valley Elementary feasibility study that will be due October the 15th. And we have the Employee Assistance Program solicitation on the streets, and that is going to be due October the 6th. So I think that's about it as far as how to do business with us. There's a lot of information on our website, and I know that I gave a lot of information in a very short amount of time, but we are always available for questions, to provide additional guidance, to accept any feedback, and we look forward to doing business with the attendees today and the future. Mr. Mason, do you have any comments before we conclude? I'm going to say no on that. Again, thank you very much for your time and the opportunity to present today.
Great. Again, Jay, are you there? No, okay.
I'm here.
Very good. Yep. Did you have any comments, Jay, that you wanted to share? There
I just want to say thank you for everyone for today. And Carrie, thanks for supporting Frederick County Public Schools. And I would just like to say, one of my goals as a board member is to make sure that the contract dollars that we are giving out are being spread around to several companies. And we want to make sure that our companies are represented and have all the information, and Carrie is willing to work and provide any kind of information, feedback. So please contact her. She's been very excited to do this webinar, and I know that she's going to help all of our businesses take part in our procurement process. Thank you very much.
Great, great.
Thank you, Mr. Mason.
Awesome. So right now we'd like to get our presenters back online. If you could turn your video back on, that would be great. We do have a few Q&A questions that have cropped up, and we'll try to get you to address them as best as possible. So let's start with this first question. Why has Frederick County Government implemented not implemented, I believe, a small business utilization program or a minority small business MBE program?
I'll take that since I'm Frederick County.
I think that would be a county question, yes.
Right. Actually, we've never had a disparity study. And in order to really have a program and have it hold up in a court of law, there has to be a disparity study. A disparity study requires a lot of information that we just didn't have. 2 years ago, we got a new enterprise resource planning system, which is the big financial brain of a county. Before that, we had one that was 23 years old and had never once been upgraded. And the vendor actually told it. The only reason we went out for a new one was because the vendor said, listen, we're not supporting you anymore. You're 20 years. You're the last one in the world to have this technology. And there were people around, this is before my time at the county, that said, and what's the problem? I'm sorry. So they didn't want to change a whole lot. And so we moved to a new one like 2 years ago. In an unfortunate turn of events, it doesn't collect the information that we're really looking for. And in order for a disparity study, Keisha's nodding, the first thing they say is go ahead and give us your last 5 years of financial information. And We don't have it. We don't have 5 years because our previous system was so old, it didn't collect it. I know it was easy for the accountants and budget, but for procurement, it really just wasn't the heart of the program. And I think to give them credit, 25 years ago when they selected it, it wasn't a priority. The other thing that's changed in the county is only 6 years ago, we became a real county with a county executive. Before that, we had 5 county commissioners that ran, and they all had to agree on anything to move forward. And there was never a consolidated effort to move forward a disparity study. The county executive looks at it completely differently. She is very forward thinking, and she's been looking into it. We just recently received some legal advice on this and of how to proceed. How do we move forward? We wanted to initially, just to let you know, we were looking at doing a goal-based program, but it turns out the way that the legality of it at this time is such that you really need a disparity study to stand on, as Keisha knows, because she's in the middle of it. So it's something that we're looking at for the future. And when we have that, we are definitely eager to get an MBE or small business or small business program in place. We just have never had it. So unfortunately, the answer has to be, we never had a disparity study. There's never been a consolidated effort towards that like there is now.
Great. Now that's so true, so true. So, okay, so here's a question. This is actually for all three, and you've kind of touched on it already, but we're just going to real quickly, that number one thing, what does the business need to do first to get set up to do business in Frederick? So let's go county. First step.
Register on our website. You'll see a portal to public purchase, and
Correct.
that's the agent. That's the software that we're using.
Keisha.
Register on our procurement portal, and there's a link to that from the city's webpage and the purchasing department.
And again, the city portal is different than the county portal.
Correct.
Right? Okay, Carrie.
For Frederick County Public Schools, you will need to register with Emma as a vendor, as well as our online platform, which is Procure Now. And even if it's just to provide information, I'm always available. Send me an email. I can help you walk through Emma. I can help you walk through Procure Now. So whatever information's needed.
Great. And again, there's always, you got to get started somewhere. So I think you definitely have some insight today about how to get started in the process. Okay, so this question kind of came in for Diane. I'm sure it's actually applicable to all. So I'm going to we'll start with Diane, go to Keisha, and then to Carrie. How do you maximize or actually get the 30 minutes with the director or the decision maker to talk about real procurement opportunities, especially at some of these lower award amounts? So Diane?
Well, in order to get in, you need to just contact me, and then I usually have to work with you to find out what departments or what divisions. I want to get you in the room with the most people who might use something that you're offering. If you're offering something new, something that the county does not have a contract for, the onus is on you to sell, work it. Talk about where you've done this before. Talk about contracts we can ride. I'm not saying the county's lazy, but I'm going to say that the county's busy. And so if you have a contract for another jurisdiction where you offered the same services and won in a competitive award, let us know that. We'll be happy to ride for those same services. So if you're coming in cold with you're just saying, hey, you've never done this before, but I want you to do this, you have a huge burden on your shoulders. Introduce yourself, get to know these people, ask a couple of questions about what we need, and then that's when you want to do your big pitch. This is your big opportunity to get on their Rolodex. So they take your card and say, I'm going to look this guy up. I'm going to look into this. I'm going to do this. Now, just to let you know, on a solar company, last year, we had a guy come, no, it was 2 years ago, actually, because last year he got the contract, or she, I can't remember who it was that came in to visit. But they did a vendor meeting. It was a 30-minute meeting with Shannon Moore. She's the head of our Office of Environmental Friendliness, which is not the name of the office, but it's something like that. And she was so impressed with them that when she was awarded grant money later that year, she actually wrote them into the grant. So here's a situation where we had never had this service before. She was so impressed with what they could offer and what they're doing in other jurisdictions. She wrote it into the grant, was in receipt of the grant, and they got a $400,000 contract. That doesn't always happen, but it does happen. We also had a painter gentleman come in and he said, I don't want a big contract. This is atypical. Most people come in and say, I want the biggest one you've got. He said, I don't want a big contract. I'm a small painting company. And our division director was like, I have been looking for you for 20 years. I need a small time painter to touch up here and there, to do task order jobs. And so it really worked out. And it started out as a $15,000 contract, and now it's up to a $30,000 contract because he introduced himself to the person who purchased those services. Now, if we have a contract, like for on-call painting or on-call mechanical or any of those services, if you find that contract, find when it's going to expire. Get a copy of last year's contract and who was awarded. Get a copy of the last couple of purchase orders. This is all free. And then you're going to come in and you're going to meet with that division director on a little bit different. You're going to say, you know, last year you called this guy and you did this with him. Well, I could have done it for 10% cheaper. I could have done the same exact thing. I do it for this county. I do it for this county. That's a little bit different because now you're saying, not only do I want a foot, I already play in your ball field. Just give me a chance. Take me off the bench, put me in. But you want to know the biggest mistake I see in these, and I usually do about 3 to 5 a week with different divisions. The biggest mistake I see is they come in and say, I got a business, use me. And then the agency's like, well, what do you do? See what I mean? You really have to sell. You put your best salesman on it and get in the door. That's my advice.
Good advice. Keisha, how about some insight from you?
That's all great advice. And you know, I'd say the same thing for the city. Definitely, if there are other jurisdictions that you do the work with, that's a huge thing. If there are contracts we can piggyback, certainly also a huge thing. We're busy as well. Yeah, and that's just really it. The onus does fall to the vendor, especially when it's a new company or a new service or product that we've never used. But certainly the first step is to reach out and get that meeting at least set up, and then go in and sell yourself.
Great, great. Carrie, how do you get in front of the decision makers?
The best way to go is just either give me a call, send me an email. I highly encourage people to come in, learn about FCPS, look at some of the things that we have currently under contract. We can talk about some of the things that are upcoming for the next fiscal year. Let me know what they do, what kind of services they provide, what commodities they provide, and I can put them in touch with the correct department. At that point, I can also help them if they have any concerns or questions on walking through submitting documents for proposals or invitation for bid. And if it's the smaller dollar, the one-ons, that's fine too, because we can look at what we've done in the past, how frequently we've purchased it, what our total spend has been. So there's so much information. If they just reach out and set that time with us, we will always make time for our vendor community to come in and learn more and help them through.
That's great. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. This question is for Diane. The city has a DBE panel. Does the county have anything similar?
No, because again, we don't have a program because we don't have a disparity study.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, and then we have a question. This comes from one of our business owners who owns a leadership development, executive coaching, and workforce development training firm. Do any of you use those types of services? And are they a good fit for procurement departments? You want to answer that, Keisha, first? Do you want to go to the city?
Sure. That is definitely a type of service we have used in the past. We've had facilitators come in. Last year, we had a facilitator come in for strategic plan work. So those type of consultants who are in that space is something we would use. We also, pre-COVID would have different trainings, diversity and inclusion trainings, things like that to continue to develop our leaders. It's probably not going to be a formal solicitation. It's probably going to be Under 10,000, I would think for our sort of one-day things, or possibly a quote situation. But my recommendation would be to get registered, contact me, and I can put you in touch with the departments that would make those decisions.
Great advice. Carrie, what about you with that type of, not to just focus on one type of industry, but if they have a specific industry, say like leadership coaching, how would you have those type of opportunities? And again, how would they hone in on those opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. Goes with what I said before, reach out, let me know what you do, what you have to offer as far as services. But for leadership, we have an organizational development team. So I would definitely put them in touch with that, as well as Frederick County Public Schools is very big on leadership. So I'm sure other departments could utilize their services. It would just be about finding out what the vendor has to offer and where the right fit would be.
Great. Diane, do you have some insight?
No, it's same along the same lines. You definitely want to register and be looking for a solicitation like that. We don't have a live revolving solicitation for those services at this time. So if they would have come under the radar, and we probably wouldn't have seen them in the procurement office. But if you'd like to meet with it would probably be human resources on our end, that I would set you up with the director of human resources and give you 30 minutes to tell them all about yourself.
Great. Okay, again, just a couple more questions in the box here. This is for Carrie at Frederick County Public Schools. What is the procedure for a minority business to access awards and development that are below 25,000? Could you just hit those highlights again about how do they find that kind of business?
Sure. So for under 25,000, we don't have any requirements. We don't have any set-asides. Our set-asides come when we are utilizing state funding, usually our larger construction, but we do definitely encourage small businesses and minority businesses. We keep a spreadsheet as to who they are and what they have, as well as when we register them as a vendor, we know if they're MBE, SBE, VBE. So we definitely try to encourage them and reach out to them. But it'll be the ones that either have federal funding or state funding that we have a definite set aside and percentage requirement for MBE participation.
Great. And I have one more question in the Q&A. If you have any last questions for the state, city, or county, go ahead and type them in now. We're going to go ahead and let me just pose this question. This is to Frederick County and the City of Frederick. Regarding what procurement standards does county and city have for contract award evaluation and selection criteria for award? For example, are there any kind of weighting systems for bidder proposals, meeting a certain number of bid responses per solicitation statement, etc.? Do you want to start with that, Diane, please?
Sure. We have the code, the Frederick County Code, obviously. There are certain requirements, and it's that we at least receive one solicitation for it to be considered, obviously. However, if there's one solicitation received, we can actually negotiate with that one as opposed to just accepting it like it is. If we receive no solicitations, our standard process, it's not per code, it's just what we do. We're going to go out to the vendors that should have responded and say, what do we do wrong? Where do we go bad? For every different, and I'm assuming that this is talking about more of a request for proposals. And Mr. Hayden went over that can be, that's not a firm fixed price, but it is a firm fixed price after, I should say, but it is not low bid. It's not the generic low bid, it's best value. That's going to change from solicitation to solicitation. Now, as a requirement of our documents, we actually list the evaluation criteria. We list it twice: one, what we're looking for, and two, how it will be evaluated. So we do that, and we do it in a checklist kind of format because I'm just a checklist kind of girl. So I kind of moved ours around so that just to make it a little bit more easy when you are responding to solicitations. I've told this story before. I have a huge heart for small business. I had a failed small business 20 years ago, back when I was young and even better looking. it's sad that Sherman laughed so fast, but I did. I had a business go under. It's a horrible feeling. I didn't know how to grow it. I didn't know how to move forward. And then somehow the state wanted taxes. It was ridiculous. So, you know, it was just, I was very young and very ambitious. But unfortunately, I just didn't dot my I's and cross my T's. So when Mr. Hayden went over SDAT, I strongly encourage everyone, religiously go over your SDAT. Make sure that you're straight with that, because that's one of the things we see constantly. You're not, you have to contact the state. We can't award you because you're not in good standing. Quick, call them and get in good standing. And in some cases it languishes where they just, for some reason, the vendor just doesn't contact or can't work something out because they've allowed it to go too long. And so unfortunately they lose the award based on SDAT. So when he went over that, I was like, oh, that's a golden rule is get good with that. But as far as in answer to your question specifically, it's everything in ours is listed right in the solicitation. So you'll know exactly what they're looking for. And we have a panel that oversees them. And it's a panel of all professionals. And we always have one disinterested third party. So as a part of our panels, so that a team sometimes needs someone on the outside looking in, because if you go in and you're all of the same mindset, you don't have that outside voice. So we actually have something where we have a disinterested third party sit on the evaluation team so that they can monitor the progress of the evaluation and make sure that an outside voice is heard as well.
Great. Keisha, did you have any more comments on that?
Sure. It's actually just basically a reiteration of what Diane said. If we get just one submission, we can negotiate with them. And if we would get none on something, we'd certainly want to go back to the vendor community and find out why, and correct that. And then, you know, procedurally, we would reissue. As far as the criteria in an RFP, because I'm assuming that's what they're talking about. That's where that criteria would come in. It does vary based on the RFP, but it is listed up front in every RFP that we do. We don't, inherently it's weighted. We typically do out of 100 points. And as I said, it could be different numbers of criteria based on that specific solicitation. Typically there are some points awarded for the price, although that's not the most important factor in an RFP. There's typically also some points awarded for experience or references. And then general approach somehow is worked in there as well. But it is all stated up front so that every proposer knows how they're being judged.
Okay, good. So just a couple more quick questions. And if we're just going to round robin again, we'll start again with Diane, go to Keisha, then Carrie. Can you give maybe 2 or 3 examples of businesses that are needed in your that you see? Is it IT, construction, cleaning? Just can give some generalities of where some of these businesses might be able to get started with procurement.
In the county, some of the vendors that we have a difficult time finding are small painting contractors. We also small cleaning contractors, not the big ones, just 1 and 2s kind of. That's a more difficult contract. We always are looking for snow removal contractors. We unfortunately didn't get to use them last year, but I'm a snow fanatic, so I pray for snow. I say bring it. I'm talking, let's measure in feet, not inches. I'm from Buffalo originally, up in that area, so I want to see some real snow, but we have a problem with getting enough snow vendors. And likewise, in the summer, we have some issues with mowing vendors. So if you have one of those type of services, definitely reach out to us. We want to find out about you and get you under contract.
Great.
Keisha?
It's pretty similar for the city. Those smaller type of contracts where it may be on call or just a 1 or 2 off, they tend to be a little difficult. We did do one to outsource a bit of our snow. We do most of it in-house, but some snow removal for like parking decks and areas around those. small HVAC vendors. We're looking to outsource a little bit of our HVAC work for specific buildings occasionally. Again, we have in-house, but those small sort of one-off or on-call vendors tend to be a little difficult. So.
Okay. Carrie?
And ours is going to be the same. It's going to be the small service, the one-off contract, as well as right now, same with everybody, I'm sure, is PPE supplies. You know, we're doing well, but we're always looking for additional vendors that can provide safety and janitorial supplies, nursing services, therapy services. So it's the smaller, again, one-offs that we can kind of put more directly into a department or to a situation as opposed to a massive contract.
Great, great. Okay, this question, again, we're down to probably 2 more questions. Diane, this is for you. How does the county encourage and promote minority business engagement? We know that it's a high value, it's been a high priority with the county executive. So maybe just give an example of how you're encouraging and promoting minority business engagement.
We actually have a gentleman whose entire job is the champion, and he's joining us here today, the handsome, the intelligent, the well-spoken and excellently dressed Sherman Coleman, whose job is it to engage and inspire. And I've spoken with his teams many times, maybe not many, I don't know how many is many is more than 3. So many times,
Yeah.
and to encourage them. They're an excellent group. It's ever evolving, ever changing, and the most important part, it's ever growing. So the county is so dedicated that we have Sherman.
Thank you.
I could agree. I totally agree with that. Attended some of Sherman's events, his Minority Business Vision Network. We can't wait till those events can get back in person again.
Right. Yeah.
But he is just such a great, valuable resource to our city and county, actually.
Thank you.
Okay, last question. This one's for Frederick County Public Schools. Carrie, so how do you promote, how does your department promote minority business engagement?
Well, I'll say that I am fairly new to Frederick County. I've been there just over a year, but I do come from stateside where we were very big on promoting minority and small businesses as well as veteran businesses. So that's something that we're definitely going to strategically plan this year to do more vendor outreach, more vendor engagement, and kind of bring a little bit of that knowledge from the state side on how important MPE, SBE, BBE participation is, not just to our agency, but to the community as well. So that's definitely on our radar that we're going to be doing some more outreach.
Great. Well, that's all the questions in the Q&A, and we know there's going to be more questions as you start to delve through the material presented today. So again, you have some great information, some great new contacts that you've made today. And I'd like to turn this now over to my colleague on the county end, to Sherman, to give you some closing comments.
Let me start off by saying, wow.
Yeah.
This was awesome with a capital A. And I just want to say that I am thrilled. And I just want to recognize my co-host, Mary Ford Neal, on the outstanding job she did today. Great job, Mary. Something I want to go back into early on in the presentation. Mary mentioned the idea of Rolodex. I'm familiar with that concept too, so we're kind of in the same boat on that. I would like to take this opportunity to express a sincere appreciation and say thank you to our partners. The Governor's Office of Small Minority and Women Business Affairs, Frederick County Government, City of Frederick, and Frederick County Public Schools, along with the technical support of Platinum PR. And I want to give a special shout out to Sandy Spinagle, the eyes and ears behind the scenes with Platinum PR, and what a great job that she did preparing this today. As I said earlier, we hope that we gave you information and a toolkit where you could take advantage of these opportunities and broaden your access to widen your asset streams for success. We want to say thank you to each and every one of you for participating, giving us your time. And we hope that we provided you information and also the inspiration to get involved and to go that extra mile of getting involved. And as you can see, we're surrounded by great people. And everyone who presented themselves today left you with the word of contact me or get in touch with me. So they want to help you, they want to reach out, and the door is always open. So I just want to say thank you for everybody that attended. And usually we say at after these things, drive safely home. Well, you're already home. So we just want to say thank you again and have a great weekend, and we'll see you down the road. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.